Redshift here, doing my part to shift perceptions out of the pink and into the red. One of the things I want to say in this video is this. Mascara is the craziest thing ever. Even in the commercials for it, where they make it look as good as possible, it still looks hideous. Eyelashes are supposed to be fine and smooth and delicate, not thick and ugly like mascara makes eyelashes look. It's fucking crazy that this thing even became popular ever, right? Like, makeup is supposed to make women look better, not worse, right? And like, you can say that, oh, the fakeness of makeup doesn't make women look better, right? Okay, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like, even like, if you don't mind the fakeness of it, like you can say, okay, yeah, like foundation and, lipstick and, eyeshadow and all that. If it's done well, it can make women look better, right? But mascara never makes women look better. In my opinion, I think it's hideous. I've always thought it was hideous, and I've never understood it in the slightest. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just me. Maybe my aesthetic sense is just way too sharp or something, but I don't know. It's fucking crazy to me that any women ever wore mascara, let alone still fucking wear it and spend all this money on it. It's fucking crazy. Like, I can understand them spending money on lipstick and foundation and stuff like this, but spending money on mascara, I mean, it's fucking hideous. Absolutely hideous. But anyway, enough of my rant on mascara. Another thing I want to say in this video is this. It makes perfect sense that women love kids and are made happiest by kids because kids are innocent and happy, but women are cunning, selfish, and miserable, and parasitic. And thus women are made happy by being around kids because women are parasitic and can vicariously experience the happiness of kids to make themselves happy. Plus, the irrationality of kids probably scratches women where they itch. They don't get to be around irrationality when around men. But when they're around women, women are not being as irrational when around other women, because they like to be irrational around men to entertain men or whatever, right? But women are not as often irrational when around other women, unless they're like around their really close friends and they're being silly or whatever. But if they're just being around other women in general, like, it's more of a calculation thing because they're all in on it, right? They all know that women are cunning, that women are the bad guys, that women are selfish. They all know that about each other, but they don't say it in public. They don't want men to hear that, right? But so they all know the secret. So when they're all interacting with each other, it's always a calculation. It's like, it's always like this backstabbing game, right? And like little behind, subtle insults and or, maneuvering for status or position of some other kind. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not so articulate, so it's hard to describe, but it's like they don't get to be irrational around other women because other women are not being irrational around them. They're just being very calculating, right? So they're all being very calculating around each other. So they're not irrational around other women, even though women are irrational. Unless they're in like an argument, right? Then they can both get really irrational in an argument, right? But other than that, they're not so irrational. So they like being around kids because kids are happy and irrational, and women want to be happy, and women are irrational. So that's another reason why, like, they get along around kids. Like, that's why they like being around kids, right? And kids are not only irrational, but they're spontaneous and happy as well. That is when they're not being miserable and screaming their heads off or throwing a fit, right? But, women like kids instinctively from evolution, designing them that way, so if they were raised right to be patient people, women, then they can be quite patient with kids' bad behavior, right? Especially if they have the man to back them up, right? Like, okay, you can act that way, but I'm going to tell your father when he gets home, and then you'll really be in trouble. Like if they always had that trump card of being able to pass it on to the man, to punish the kid, then that can also help them get along better with kids. You know what I mean? Like, deal with kids' bad behavior better. It's like when they're a single mother, though, then the whole burden is on them, and then that's way more stress, and then they're much worse mothers because of it, right? Women's emotional parasitism is also part of the reason why they are bad with money. They spend money to feel better. Women require outward validation, but men require inward validation. Or validation outwardly, but on inner standards, right? Like, maybe not his standards, but like, Not like a standard of like, oh, you get a trophy or oh, you get money. It's more like you get the inner validation of the respect of other men who are respect worthy and or have status and are accomplished at something, right? So that's kind of an inward form of validation as well. When men get outward validation, right? It's not the gold medal that they want when they win a gold medal at the Olympics, right? It's the man wants the respect and the admiration and the feeling of achievement, the respect, right? Like everybody's like, wow, like look at what he did, that's amazing, right? Like he wants that respect. So that's, you could say it's a form of outward validation, but in a sense it's a form of inward validation. um, Men set their own standards of behavior, but women do not. Men make themselves happy, but women need a man or a drug or a shopping trip or a vacation or a sunny day or a child or some other external thing to make them happy. Vampirism, of a kind that you might call emotional, tends to be a trait of the fairer sex. So, this is yet another reason to go MGTOW, because you might have the abundant energy and optimism and happiness and such to carry the weight of both you and her, your girlfriend or wife or whatever, as she's feeding off of your happiness like a vampire, right? But as the decades go by, you're going to get more and more drained by her endless need for you to make her happy because of her being either unable or unwilling to make herself happy, right? Imagine being in your 50s or your 60s and having a woman still sucking at your emotional neck, draining your happiness from you in order to sustain herself. And their sadism, women's sadism, plays into this as well. If they gain happiness from others' pain, then this makes perfect sense, because then as the victim of emotional exsanguination gets weaker and more miserable, she not only gains in strength relative to him, but she may also very well be getting emotional joy and happiness and pleasure out of his misery. Misery that is caused by her emotionally leeching from him because he is happier than she is, because he is a more virtuous person than she is, even if that virtue only is in the form of him having a better work ethic and trying harder at whatever it is that he does, right? So I want to say that. Another thing I want to say in this video is this. Yet one more reason the Jewish media companies promote miscegenation and the single motherhood that results from it is that it makes for tons of court battles, and this enriches the lawyers, most of whom are Jewish. Jewish media masters enrich Jewish lawyers by promoting single motherhood. And they may very well do it on purpose. I mean, maybe it's an accident, maybe they don't do it intentionally to benefit other Jewish people. Because after all, from what I understand, the Jewish people at the top of the media companies are merely biologically Jewish, but are not religiously Jewish. But still, it's something to keep in mind. This possibility that perhaps they're promoting single motherhood, among other reasons, to, increase divorce to benefit the Jewish lawyers who are the divorce lawyers, right? As well as many other kinds of lawyers, right? Maybe they still have us, and maybe even though the religious Jewish people do not consider these secular Jewish people to be Jewish, maybe these secular Jewish people do still consider themselves to be Jewish. Maybe they still have a strong own group preference, even though they don't practice their religion, and thus they are happy to help Jewish lawyers just because they're Jewish. And it's maybe not the main reason they promote miscegenation and single motherhood, but maybe they're still happy about it, and it's a nice little ancillary benefit. So I want to mention that. Another thing I want to mention is that you have to be as optimistic as you need to be to survive, even if that means being a bit delusionally optimistic. Survival is more important than truth, because truth is only important if one is alive, or if other people are alive. This is true for both men and women, but I want to further point out that women are more emotional and weaker, and thus they are more delusionally optimistic than men are, because they need to be more optimistic to survive, both in terms of surviving emotionally, that is, staying happy in order to stay sane, and in terms of staying happy in order to be able to attract a man to take care of her and give her kids. So staying, emotionally surviving, and therefore also physically surviving, right? Like both of these things depend to a degree on women being optimistic and happy, right? And that happiness comes from the optimism, which may often be delusional, but it benefits her, so that's why women are kind of designed by evolution to be that way, right? And regarding survival being more important than truth, I'm not saying that, fuck the truth, survival is more important. I'm saying that, because a lot of times you need truth to survive. That's why the human race is in so much peril right now. of survival. This is why we're hurtling toward extinction at breakneck speed at an exponential pace, meaning it doesn't seem like we're hurtling toward extinction, but we really are, because the curve goes exponential, and all of a sudden, it seems like it's just going up really gradually, and then in a very short time, it's going straight up, and it's skyrocketing, right? Or dropping off a cliff, whichever way you want to view the graph or whatever, but whichever way you want to frame it. My point is, the reason we're hurtling toward extinction is a lack of truth, is a lack of understanding of the declining EROI of oil, and overpopulation and lack of understanding about IQ differences. Someone recently said something like, he asked me about the IQ issue. I'm not the way he phrased it, I wasn't really exactly sure what he meant. He said something like, so IQ is lower in black people by default? Well, I don't know what you mean by default, but the average, meaning most black people in America are going to have an IQ around 85. There will be some with 70, there will be some with 140, like Thomas Sewell, or Sowell, or whatever, however you pronounce his last name. He's a black guy, he's got like a 140 IQ or something. Or maybe it's even higher, maybe it's 160, I can't remember how high it is. He's a black guy with a super high IQ, right? So it's not as if there's no black people who are super smart. There definitely are. It's just the average. Most black people have an IQ around 85. Some are 80, some are 82, some are 90, some are 92, some are 87. But most of them have an IQ of about 85, just like white people. You got white people with 180 IQs, you got white people with 80 IQs. You know what I'm saying? So, so this is how it is. But the average white IQ is around 100. So same with the Chinese, some super, super smart Chinese, some really, really dumb Chinese, but on average their IQ is about 105. So this just, points to what the average is, what most people have. And it's a bell curve too, right? It's not like there's an even amount of people really low, an even amount of people in the middle, and an even amount of people really high, so that the average is in the middle. It's a bell curve, meaning there's very few people lower than that, like way lower, very few people way higher than the average, and then most of them, the vast majority, are in that middle range of 85 for blacks, 100 for whites, 105 for Chinese, and like 115 for Ashkenazi Jewish people. So, but what I was saying about truth and survival is that truth is often important for survival. And that's one of the reasons we don't have enough truth right now. Like, the people are totally deluded. That's why humanity is in danger of going extinct. So, both survival and truth are more important. But if you had to pick one, you have to pick survival, because there is no truth without survival, right? Survival is the prerequisite, just like morality, right? Like, physical survival is more important than morality, because you can't be moral if you're dead, right? And if you let all the good people die by being moral, then only the evil people survive, and then evil thrives, and then evil wins, right? So this needs to be said. The next thing I want to say in this video is that I also want to say that women these days are mentally unstable, pushy, promiscuous single mothers. Think about that. That's what a lot of women are these days. Mentally unstable, pushy, promiscuous single mothers. Even just one of those qualities would have invalidated a woman from being a wife and mother back in the 1950s and earlier. Mental instability was not a common thing back then. Women were not pushy back then. Women were not promiscuous back then. And women were not single mothers back then. Women are so incredibly screwed up these days that there are a huge percentage of women who are not just one or two of these negative qualities, but are actually all of these negative qualities. They're pushy, they're mentally unstable, and they're promiscuous, and they're single mothers. Because, not all single mothers are promiscuous, right? Like, maybe she was too religious, or she was dumb, or her parents didn't teach her enough, or didn't control her strictly enough, so she gets a boyfriend when she's 16, and she loves him, and he loves her, and then they start having sex, and then boom, she's pregnant, right? So just because a woman may be a single mother doesn't mean she's a promiscuous whore, right? And a lot of promiscuous whores are not single mothers, but that doesn't mean they're not whores. That doesn't mean they're not total sluts, just the fact that they've never gotten pregnant or don't have a baby, right? So these are totally different qualities. So a lot of women these days are all these qualities. They're mentally unstable, and they're pushy. They're bossy, and they tell their man what to do, and they don't know how to be submissive. And they're promiscuous, and they're single mothers. I mean, it's shocking. It's truly shocking. But I doubt I can sufficiently impress upon a young guy of today how incredibly shocking it is. And this is because guys of today have grown up with such women. And so these guys have no idea how much better it used to be 70 years ago. thank God for MGTOW pointing out to men that men can have standards, and that men should have standards, and that men don't have to put up with this bullshit, but can either avoid women altogether or just pump and dump women. And as long as women are being promiscuous sluts, they both will be pumped and dumped, and they will deserve to be pumped and dumped. And once women start keeping their legs closed so that they don't get pumped and dumped anymore, then that will be a good thing, because it will set a very good example for younger women who are still virgins and will help keep them from losing their souls. It will help those young women remain virgins, and this will be fantastically beneficial for society when it starts happening on a wide scale. When we get a return to women staying virgins on a wide scale. Men's lack of standards over the last, let's say, 30 years has had a horrific effect on society. Lack of standards in women, that is. Men being like, oh, I don't care if she's loose, that means I get to have sex before marriage and no consequences. You see, this is a lack of standards. This men's lack of standards for women over the last 30 years has had a horrific effect on society, and men are once again starting to have standards, and this is a very good thing. And it'll have a good effect on society going forward, because it's going to force women to behave better in almost every way. It's going to force women to start once again becoming humble, hardworking, honest, chaste, faithful, reasonable, realistic, loving, etc. All of these good qualities are going to return because women are going to be forced just to survive, just to get a boyfriend, just to get kids. They're going to be forced to develop these qualities because men will be having nothing to do with slutty women unless it's for a pump and dump or something, right? And another thing I want to say in this video is this. Women are like trigger-happy cops. They shoot verbal bullets first and ask questions later. Even when they're not angry, even when it's not done out of anger or anything, they often respond instantly by instinct when asked a question or something like that, right? And this gives them a big advantage because people's reaction to their instinctive stab-in-the-dark response tells them a lot by way of facial expressions. And if the instinctive guess was wrong, then no big deal. And if she did offend someone, then she goes into vulnerable apology mode. You see, men have neither the instinct, the intuition, the people-reading skills, nor the social leeway to be able to do this. Or at least not to the extent that women do it. Or, some men can do it. Like, top men are just as cunning, just as deceptive, just as good at reading people, just as manipulative, just as witty, and just as intuitive as women, right? But the vast majority of men, the men in the middle, are not this way, right? This is also the reason that women lie when they don't have to. They respond instantly without thought, and because thinking is a slow process. So, they respond instantly because that also goes along with giving a simulacrum of the truth. You know what I mean? Like, you give an appearance of being able to tell the truth if you can respond instantly, right? Because if you're lying, if you're not a great liar, you're gonna have to think for a second, right? Even if it's only half a second or something. That little pause can, put a big doubt in someone's mind on whether you're telling the truth. And women are incredible liars. They had to develop that ability. The evolution had to grant them that ability to survive around bigger, faster, stronger, meaner, more aggressive men, right? Well, maybe not, meaner, but not more ruthless, right? But anyway, I guess that could be debated who's meaner or who's more ruthless, but anyway, so yeah, they've evolved to be able to respond instantly so as to, be more able to be believed, right? And sometimes this results in lying, right? Like, she doesn't even need to lie, but she's asked a question, and sometimes her instinctive response is just to respond instantly and lie, right? Even though she really had no need to lie. Since her response was instant and instinctive, this means she did not need to lie, but could not stop herself because her response was instant and instinctual, and thus she did not take the time to assess whether she needed to lie or not. Because if she assessed, it'd be too late anymore, and then even if she did lie and had to lie, it would be too late, because then there would have been a pause, and then her lie would not be believed. You see, she just goes by her emotions. If she feels like she might be in danger from that question, then she just fires off a lie to protect herself, even if the question wasn't dangerous to her at all, and she thus did not actually need to lie. And of course, because men give women a pass on all kinds of horrific behavior, up to and including murder, even if the guy catches her and realizes she's lying and calls her on it, she will just charm him and he will let it go, even though lying is a major red flag, especially if the lying is instinctual like that, even when it's not necessary. Some women are honest, but even these honest women have dishonest memories. meaning they unintentionally twist the truth, right? They can't give an accurate account of events because it's distorted by their own self-interest, their own feelings, etc. So even the women who aren't straight up liars, they lie unintentionally, you see? So, but you kind of gotta judge women differently, right? Like the best you can hope for is a woman who has a dishonest memory and twists things like this, right? Like I think pretty much virtually all women are like that, right? But like women who are straight up dishonest, who are intentional liars and stuff, right? Lying is more of a habit for them. They're more likely to like fire off a lie in an instinctual way. So you kind of gotta like, if you're a purple pill guy or a blue pill guy, you want to go after a woman who is very, very honest, right? Because even though those women have dishonest memories, they don't intentionally lie, right? They try to tell the truth. So that's what I mean when I say that lying is a major red flag. Because if I said it was a major red flag, but like all of them did it, it would be a meaningless statement, right? So I had to clarify what I meant by saying that's a major red flag. Another thing I want to say in this video is that in an episode of Teen Mom 2, I noticed that Kaylin was wearing a necklace with a triangle on it. There were also 2 circles to the side of it as well, though, so maybe it was not an Illuminati triangle. Maybe it's just a coincidence. But then again, her ex-husband Javi has a tattoo of what looks like a triangle with an eye in it. It's part of a whole big sleeve. There's all these other images all crowding around it, so it's kind of hard to tell for sure, especially since you don't see it very clearly very often, right? But to me, it looks like I think it might be an eye with a triangle. The eye is definite, and it did look like there were 2 lines at about triangle angle above it, you know, like a tent type of thing, right above the eye. So I think it was an eye in a triangle, and that would make me more likely to believe that Kaylin's triangle and circle necklace was an Illuminati triangle, right? Plus the 2 little circles on the side, maybe those were indicating the eyeball, right? The eyeball and then the pupil of the eye, maybe. I also wanted to point out an instance of miscegenation propaganda. I may have pointed this out before, but I'm not sure that I did. I may have just noticed it and planned on mentioning it in a future video, but never actually did so. I saw a Trojan bearskin condoms commercial, and it showed a romantic couple composed of a black guy and a white girl. And to make it even more obvious, the girl said, "We don't like to use condoms." And then the middle-aged white guy talking to the couple mentioned about how the condoms are now 40% thinner. It's well known that black guys don't like to use condoms, hence all the single motherhood among black women, and among mixed-race couples where the guy and the couple is black, which is an even higher rate of single motherhood than among blacks. I've seen online, I've heard it said that the rate of single motherhood where of a mixed-race couple where the father is black, the rate of single motherhood there is 92%. So, Jesus Christ, like, if they want to bring in single motherhood to be able to take over reproduction, if the elites want that, then promoting miscegenation is a damn good way of doing it, right? Because single motherhood in the black community is only 70%, right? So that's way higher even than normal black single motherhood, right? So, yeah. I'm not sure why that is exactly. Maybe it's because guys want sex and black women are more reckless, and thus they're more likely to not care if the guy uses birth control or whatever. So when white guys have sex with black women, oh no, but yeah, that's 92% only when the father is black, right? So that's probably because of black guys being more aggressive, right? And women are more turned on when women are more turned on by aggressive guys, right? Dominant guys. So because black guys have, you know, a lower IQ, which makes them more reckless and also more aggressive, because they have higher testosterone than white guys do. This means that, you know, women are going to be more turned on. They're going to be more willing to have sex in the moment rather than planning it. And then, you know, because black guys don't like to use condoms, she gets pregnant. Hence the 92% rate of single motherhood when you have, you know, a mixed race couple and the father is black. Yada, 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 yada. Right. So since white girls are going to have a problem dating black guys, if black guys don't want to use condoms, but white girls do, if they do want their boyfriend to use a condom, then this means that this statement about them not liking to use condoms is specifically a way to get white girls and black guys together, because this condom promotes the solution, which is a condom so thin that it supposedly feels like you're not even wearing a condom. Thus, the black guy feels like he's not wearing a condom, so he's fine with wearing one, and the white girl's happy because he's wearing a condom so she won't get pregnant. I also want to point out an eHarmony commercial. You may have seen it. It's from 2018. It has an absolutely gorgeous blonde girl in the video, in the commercial. I actually put a video out a while ago where I used the thumbnail of the video was a screenshot from that commercial because the girl is so good looking. I thought it'd make a good thumbnail. But yeah, there's like volleyball going on in the background. It's a short commercial. I think it's like 15 seconds long or something like that. The commercial shows text on the screen that says that she's really on eHarmony. She's a real eHarmony member, this actress or whoever she is, the gorgeous blonde. The reason I wanted to point out this commercial is because it's absolutely ridiculous. Even if this girl really is on eHarmony and is trying to find a boyfriend on eHarmony, it's still ridiculous because the commercial is aimed at normal guys. And normal guys are not the kind of guys who a girl like that, a girl who's that gorgeous, she's not going after normal guys, right? So it doesn't even matter if girls like that are on eHarmony because you, the average guy, will not be able to get such a girl on eHarmony to be interested in you anyway. And thus it's totally irrelevant if girls like her are on eHarmony. And besides, I'd even say that most girls that gorgeous are not on eHarmony. They're probably on a dating website that is specifically focused on bringing together rich men and gorgeous women. I know there are some websites like that. I don't know the names of them. I have a terrible memory. I've only heard the names of one or two of them, and only like once. But, I know they do exist. And another example of miscegenation propaganda is on the show Miracle Workers. The show is a comedy about God planning on blowing up the world, and two angels get him to agree to not do it if they can accomplish one of the impossible miracles that, people have prayed for. There's a lot of these impossible miracles that people have prayed for, and so the two angels, played by Daniel Radcliffe and some young non-white woman whose name I don't know, they decide that they will try to accomplish the impossible miracle of getting a particular white guy and a particular black girl together romantically. And so the show seems like the entire first season is going to be about getting these two people to fall in love and get into a serious long-term relationship. So there's more miscegenation propaganda. Let's see here. Wow, this video is already 27 minutes long. I wrote even more in the script, another topic or two, so I'm just going to leave that and turn that into a different video. This has been Redshift. I hope you got something out of this video. Hit the thumbs up or thumbs down button. Peace trucks.